Donald Trump called Kamala Harris a fascist 5 times on the campaign tour, and you don't want to admit that, but you want to complain about the word fascist.
How many shots were fired at Kamala? Let's see. Donald Trump
shots?
almost got assassinated.
Oh, you only care
Donald
about
Trump
the word.
almost got assassinated.
So,
Charlie Kirk was assassinated. ICE agents are being attacked. Kids are being shot in schools.
So do you think that Democrats were celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk? Do you think
some were? Absolutely, some were.
Can you name me one elected official that was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk?
AOC was out there saying.
What did she say?
AOC specifically said that, nobody deserves to die, but the things he said were really divisive.
So there is a difference between I'm going to give you, this is such a ridiculous argument because I did this on Piers Morgan last week. There is a difference between celebrating the death of somebody, which, by the way, you're wrong. AOC did not do that, and not wanting to celebrate somebody's life.
Hold on. With
you're wrong. Tell me what AOC said that, quote, celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk. What you just quoted. She
didn't throw a birthday party with balloons and confetti.
What did she say to celebrate the death? Tell me.
She, through one side of her mouth, says, this is really bad, and then goes and spews the same rhetoric that caused him to get killed in the first place.
Not liking what somebody said, saying that you don't like somebody for spreading hatred,
because here's the reality, Brian.
Violence? That's
here's the reality, Brian. Here's the reality, Brian. The tone and the rhetoric coming out of the left is inspiring.
Let's
you
talk
can
about
laugh,
that.
but it's inspiring people to commit violence. And so what are you going to do about it? As a matter of fact, I'm going to click comments right now. I'm going to click comments. And if you think I'm making this up, let's see what your comments even say right now.
Right now, I'm not concerned about the comments.
I'm just telling you the truth, man.
And I'm just telling you the truth. Donald Trump, at Charlie Kirk's own ceremony and funeral, said he hated half the country. Why don't you ever call out that sort of rhetoric?
No. He said he hates the people that killed Charlie Kirk as political
enemies. No, he didn't say that. That's not true. He said he hated his political opponents.
His enemies.
He said he hated his political opponents.
And what was it? Yes. And that was another thing. And I do not want to get into this because I'm still too annoyed to even debate about it. But that funeral was 4 hours of prayer. Charlie Kirk's wife gets up, and Erica Kirk, and forgives his killer.
Not talking about
then you guys, no, of course you're not, because instead you're spending hours
talking about
a hand-picked phrase to make it look like the left is hateful. Because Brian, here is the reality. And look, we're not going to agree on this, and it's fine. Here is the reality. The rhetoric coming out of the left is becoming dangerous and increasingly violent. And every time there's violence, you guys have to pivot and poke and point fingers. But you guys own this, and yet you can't.
Wrong. You just said that there are elected Democrats that have celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. You're lying. Give me an example of an elected Democrat who openly is celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. You're caught in a lie, David.
The death
then give me one quote.
Brian, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Of course, because you can't give me one quote. You're lying.
It's because.
Then give me a quote. Give me a quote.
Brian.
Give me a quote.
Brian, listen, you live in your world. I'll live in mine.
It's not about living in the world.
No, it is. Because in your reality, you can say whatever you want. J.D. Pritzker can say whatever he wants. Gavin Newsom can say whatever he wants. Conservatives can be shot. Conservatives can be rammed with cars. Conservatives can have urine thrown at them and be punched in the face. And then it's just, they're antagonizers. Or no Democrat politician is actually calling for all of this. The problem is you guys take zero accountability for your hateful rhetoric. You call people Nazis. I'm telling you. You call people Nazis. You call people communists. You call people a threat to democracy. And then when all of your cult members, you call us cult members, then when your cult members kill people, you take no accountability.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
First of all, I'm not the president of the United States. How many times did Donald Trump call Kamala Harris a fascist when he was running for office?
How many times have Democrats called President Trump a Nazi or a fascist?
Answer the question, okay? I'm not
going to answer the question because these are ridiculous questions.
No, because you don't. You
listen,
refuse.
Brian, here's the reality. Look, we're on different sides of this. I think the people on the left are getting to a dangerous place where federal agents and officers are being attacked. ICE agents are being called fascists.
What happened on January 6th?
People are hitting them with cars.
What happened on January 6th?
What happened on January 6th?
Were those Antifa? Was that lefties, Democrats, or those
actually? Yes, and there were almost 200 FBI agents who were seen literally removing window panes from the Capitol. I know what happened on January 6th. You're never going to admit what happened on January 6th. It was a giant setup, is what happened on January 6th. But talk to Pam about it. Pam will agree with you. Pam will agree with you.
Nothing that was proven in the courts that to exemplify.
Nothing was proven in the courts. Fine. Let's go with that narrative. Just like the 2020 election, just like the Russia collusion, let's go with, well, there's no proof of it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. No Trump won the 2020 election. So, David, I'll ask you now for a third time because you brought it up, not me. Okay, you brought it up.
Then I got to run, but yes.
Okay, understood. You brought it up, not me.
Yeah.
You made the claim that elected Democrats in office are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk.
Correct.
You didn't make an example of AOC, who you claimed was, which, by the way, she wasn't. She was saying just like what I say. What happened was horrible, but I don't like Charlie Kirk. I don't like what he stood for. I don't think he was a good guy. There is a difference between celebrating the murder of somebody, which I would never do and no elected Democrat official has done, and saying you don't want to celebrate his life. So I ask you again now for a third time, or retract. Name me one elected Democrat that has openly celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk.
How are you defining celebrating?
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm asking you how you're defining celebrating. Like
saying, I'm happy he died. I'm happy he was murdered.
Yeah.
Thank God for this kid Robinson for doing what he did. Now, give me one quote or one example.
I don't have any quotes. What I will do after this, I will research to see if any Democrats specifically said what you highlighted as celebratory language. And if I can't find it, I'll send you a text and you can share it on your show that says David admitted no Democrat celebrated in the words that I used Charlie Kirk's murder. Okay, that's fair.
I appreciate that, but here's what I don't.
My point is, you can't on one side of your face condemn a murder and then go back to the same rhetoric that led to the murder to begin with. And when words like fascist, anti-fascist,
which Donald Trump has used,
the bullet literally said, "Hey, fascist, catch the bullet that struck Charlie Kirk."
Again,
I'm just telling you,
and I'm just telling you,
Charlie Kirk.
I'm just telling you,
said the exact language that's coming out of Democrats' mouths.
And I'm just telling you, the leader of your party, Donald Trump, called Kamala Harris a fascist 5 times on the campaign tour. And you don't want to admit that, but you want to complain about the word fascist.
How many shots were fired at Kamala? Let's see. Donald Trump almost got assassinated.
Oh, you only care about
Trump
the word.
Almost got assassinated. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. ICE agents are being attacked. Kids are being shot in schools.
What happened in Minnesota?
Detainees. Yes, exactly. An Antifa radical shot a Democrat in Minnesota. Yeah, absolutely true. Look it up. Look it up. It's true. You guys are blaming it on Trump. It's false. That's fake news. It was a right wing. It was not a right wing. It was an Antifa extremist who didn't like her abortion policies.
Okay.
Look it up.
Well, in closing, I'll say this.
Yeah.
The problem I have is when people like you make statements like elected Democrats are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, they are.
And hold on. Yeah. And then you're questioned on it, and you can't give me one quote. And
Brian,
you say,
God, you're trying to pit me into saying that AOC said, I'm happy Charlie's dead. What I said to you in answer to your question is the rhetoric that comes out of their mouths is insensitive to the fact that their rhetoric is what led to Charlie Kirk dying. That is what I said to you. I said you can't go and pretend you're not responsible for your rhetoric. And do you anyway, it's fine. We're not going to agree on this. No, it's cool.
You think you should be responsible for your rhetoric if Donald Trump?
You guys held Donald Trump responsible for his rhetoric. You impeached him and tried to charge him in federal court for his rhetoric.
Well,
remember?
First of all, he's a 34-count convicted felon, and second of all, if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen, do you think that rhetoric might have contributed to January 6th? Or are you
the election was stolen? He's allowed to say the election was stolen. It's his job.
He's allowed to. Okay, he's allowed to. Well, guess what? Anybody on the left is allowed to say they don't like Charlie Kirk.
Sure, it's right. But guess what? When people are starting to get shot because of the rhetoric you're using, and then you say, we're not responsible for that. Nobody condones or celebrates the murder, and you go back to the same exact language and rhetoric that causes this violence. You're still responsible.
So why don't you call Donald Trump for calling Kamala Harris a fascist then?
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. So only when the left does it, you want to call it out. But if the right does it,
let's just agree on yes. Let's agree with I'm a hypocrite and let's call it a day.
All right. Fair enough, David. All right, we are going to start off with Drake. Drake is first up on PTL. Hello, Drake.
Hey, I'm a Trump supporter down here in Florida, and Charlie Kirk, what happened? I mean, I just don't think it's one of those things that you just move on from. It's like we're gonna have to mourn, and
we don't have to mourn. Why do you say we all have to mourn?
We lost. He was like a Martin Luther King of the modern generation.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
Are you kidding
Drake
me right now.
So Drake, that's your opinion. I completely disagree with you. If you would like to mourn a guy who defended white supremacy, a guy who literally joked around after Paul Pelosi's attempted murder,
spoke bad about black women.
Yeah.
Spoke bad about black pilots.
Yeah, Drake.
Spoke bad about black teachers. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. So Drake, if you want to look at him as some sort of martyr or hero, I couldn't disagree with you more, but let me be very clear. We are not mourning. If you would like to mourn, you can go ahead and do that because it's the United States of America. You have the right to. But let me ask you a question. Do you think we should mourn somebody's death when they say empathy is a bad thing and that empathy is dangerous? Do you agree with that? Do you think empathy is dangerous?
Who said that?
Who do you think said
Charlie
that?
Kirk said it.
Who do you think said that?
Donald Trump.
No, Charlie Kirk said it.
We're not talking about Donald Trump right now. You must have Trump derangement syndrome. We're talking about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk said that. Did you think the Civil Rights Act was a bad thing?
It had its flaws.
It had its flaws, but do you think it was a bad thing?
It had its flaws. What flaw? It saved people from
broke
slavery.
down
It got rid of Jim Crow. It made it so that everyone was equal. What's wrong with that? Where's the problem with that?
So let me ask you a question. If Charlie Kirk was bludgeoned with a hammer and almost died, do you think it would be appropriate for me to go on the air next day and smile about it and ask my listeners to donate to the person who did the attack? Do you think that would be appropriate?
I mean, it's America. You have the freedom.
Didn't ask you. The question wasn't about are you allowed to do it.
We know
I need
about
you to focus on the question. Don't dodge it. If Charlie Kirk was bludgeoned with a hammer and almost died, if I went on the air the next day and smiled and asked my listeners, which I never would, to donate to the attacker's fund to get him out of jail, do you think that would be an appropriate thing to do? Yes or no?
Well, why are we getting into semantics?
This isn't semantics.
That's not semantics.
Excuse me, sir. This isn't semantics. You're obviously not smart enough to understand why I'm asking you this question. So let me connect the MAGA dots for you, if I may, okay?
Semantics.
Charlie Kirk went on the air the next day. I played the audio on this show. He smiled, he joked, and he wanted, in fact, he used the term hero for any of his listeners who donated money to the attempted murder of Paul Pelosi. That happened. This isn't semantics, and I'm not bringing up a hypothetical. Charlie Kirk did that. Now, I know you're a coward because you don't want to answer my question, but you are calling that person who you are mourning the person who did that. So I ask you now for a third time. Do you think that was appropriate? And I will ask you now, Charlie Kirk, do you think it was appropriate for him to do that? Would a good person do that?
It was done in satire.
No, actually, it wasn't done in satire because there were people that actually did donate money and to the guy who, by the way, was convicted of attempting to murder Paul Pelosi. So no, that was not satire. Charlie Kirk was being serious about it. And that is a given fact. And you can go back and you can listen to the audio yourself. He said people like Michelle Obama, black women like Michelle Obama and others, don't have the mental capacity to be taken seriously. Do you agree?
With what? The Pelosi or the Michelle Obama?
No, the fact that he talks about black women in a disparaging manner and saying that the only way they get promoted or get a spot is not because of their competency and how smart and how sharp they are and how educated. It's because a spot was open, became open from a white man, and that's how they got their promotion and their spot. That's what Charlie Kirk said. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
I'll make it easier for Drake.
You agree with that?
I'll make it easier for Drake. I think he's going to embarrass himself.
Did he say that about Big Mike?
Okay, Drake, let's try to focus here for a moment. Who do you think was more intelligent, the person who got a Harvard-educated law degree or the guy who dropped out of college after 6 months of community college? Who do you think is smarter?
He was an activist. That's why he dropped out.
The question wasn't whether he was an activist or not. I need you to focus on the question. I'll make it specific. Michelle Obama got a college degree and got her law degree from Harvard, a black woman who made it in America. Charlie Kirk was given boatloads of money from funding from far right-wing lunatics, and he is known for not debating and being a great debater from people his age or older, but from debating a bunch of unprepared people like you, people that are 18 and 19 years old on college campuses. So I ask you again, who do you think was more educated and more intelligent, Michelle Obama or Charlie Kirk?
What was she educated in?
I just told you. Do I stutter? I just told you. I'm not going to repeat it again. Why don't you answer the question?
He needs a Starbucks or something.
Why don't you answer the question?
I have a coffee right here on my desk.
Well, you need to drink it down.
Okay.
You need to drink it down, Drake, because you're having trouble keeping up with the conversation, which we would welcome you. We want you to keep up with the conversation. We want you to tell us why you think educated black women are not equal to somebody who has limited education and does nothing but spread hate and division. We want to know why you think he's better. That's what we're asking.
I don't. I mean, yeah.
Well, you voted for him, right?
Not Charlie Kirk.
You voted for Trump, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I have 3 college
never
degrees.
wrong.
I don't care if you
have never wrong.
I don't care if you have 100 college degrees. Okay, if you voted for Donald Trump, I disagree with you. And the fact of the matter is that he's embarrassing this country every day. I'm not going to sit there and mourn for Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry it happened to him. I feel for his family.
Can't
but
tell
you know
someone who to mourn for.
Yeah. That first of all, this is America. If you don't want to mourn for somebody, guess what? You don't have to. The day after Rush Limbaugh passed away from cancer, I wasn't sad at all because he was a bad guy who did a lot of bad things. Now, but that was different circumstance. Rush Limbaugh was not murdered by somebody. Okay, he died of cancer. Charlie Kirk was murdered. It was a horrible thing, but I ain't sitting here mourning. Okay, I'm not going to be mourning for somebody that I think was a bad human being. I wish it didn't happen to him. It was horrible. So Drake, you can go ahead and you can mourn. Let me ask you a question. When it was announced that Joe Biden got cancer, what was your first reaction to that?
I thought it was pretty sad. Like, I mean, he didn't have much of a life outside of being president, and he's probably pretty sick already.
Do you know anything about this, Drake? Do you know anything? He had an amazing
what are you
life,
talking about?
Absolutely amazing. He was in the Senate for 50 years, I think.
He became
post-presidential life. I don't mean in general. I mean like after. I mean, he worked so hard in president, and he gets sick.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean post-presidential? What?
I mean,
what is your knowledge?
He doesn't. You know, like he just doesn't have much time to retire and be healthy. He just has a life full of.
He's in his early 80s. He's in his early 80s.
He's sick though. The guy's sick. I feel bad.
Okay, so doctor, so doctor, I'm glad for your compassion, doctor. Can you tell me what you found in Joe Biden's physical? What did you find, doctor?
I know he got diagnosed.
What are your medical? What are your medical credentials?
I'm not a doctor.
You're not a doctor. Okay, thank you. Thank you for admitting that.
Feel bad for him.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad that's the answer that I was trying to get from you to see if you had any compassion. But to say that he didn't have. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. But you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, and many people like you seem to diagnose him with Alzheimer's. He's got this. He's got that. But yet you don't want to talk about Donald Trump and his mental capacity.
You know what the difference is, Brian? Really, I mourned for Jimmy Carter. I happen to like Jimmy Carter. I think he was an awesome president. But you know what? You and I don't do. We don't call people up or confront people and tell them you should be mourning for Jimmy Carter.
No, it's absurd.
How ridiculous, how presumptive is that?
But Leonard, it's the same people that preach about Christian white nationalism. They're right and everybody else is wrong.
Like Riley?
Yeah, the religious zealots out there and the Bible thumpers that want to tell you what to do. They want to tell you how to think.
How about love thy neighbor?
Yeah.
Ever hear of that?
But yet.
How about your brother's keeper? Ever hear of that?
But yet, I agree. But yet, these are the same people that say we're indoctrinating people. The teachers are indoctrinating people. Give me a freaking break. So, Drake, thank you for the phone call. But I mean, you go ahead and you could go on your knees every day and wear the Charlie Kirk knee pads.
Go worship Charlie Kirk.
Go
Who
ahead.
Cares?
Go ahead and go to his grave site and, with your MAGA gear. You're welcome to do that if you'd like to, but you're not somebody that I would hang out with. That's for sure. I'll also say I'm sorry for the loss of your friend. I'm sorry for his family. I'm sorry for his friends. I'm not going to celebrate his life because I don't think he was a good guy. There's a difference.
You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And that's absurd. He's not a good guy. What about his life? Was he a good husband? Was he a good father?
Okay, so I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
Right.
Okay,
was he good to his friends? Was he a good family man? Was he good? Was he generous with his time? Yeah, he was. You just think you're mad at him because his political views are too bad. So you think he's a bad person? What's wrong with you?
Okay, well I'll give you the answer if you give me the
opportunity. Shame on you, bro.
Shame on me.
Shame on you.
Shame on me. Okay, well, I'll give you reasons why.
Shame on you.
So, I'll give you the reasons why. I don't just say things like you on Jack the Sobiak show, and you say there's a large faction of the left, and you name me one person and some people on Twitter. But I'll give you actual reasons why I don't think he was a good guy. And by the way, again, very separate from celebrating somebody's murder. I want to be very clear on that.
I'm not accusing you of that.
I didn't say you were. I didn't say you were, Will. But there are a lot of people on the right that say idiotic things, that say elected officials are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I was even being accused of that. Never would I ever condone political violence, and I feel for his family and friends. Now, why do I say I don't think he was a good guy? Well, for starters, some of the statements he's made on the record about black women, including Michelle Obama and others, the day after Paul Pelosi was bludgeoned with a hammer, he went on his show with a smirk on his face, imploring his listeners to bail this guy out. And even though he said, I don't condone what happened to him, he had a smile on his face after Paul Pelosi. And by the way, I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi, but to smile and say anybody would be a hero to bail out someone who just tried to kill Paul Pelosi is not a good person, Will. Shame on you. Shame on him. That's not a good person.
That's like one bad statement. You think you were doing a daily radio show for decades. I'm assuming I'm taking your word on you framing that exactly how it was.
I played it on my show.
I don't remember that it was obvious exactly at the time that was like that his guilt was obvious until a few days later.
Well, shame on you then. Shame on you then. Because you're accusing me and you're saying shame on me when I know the statements and the words that Charlie Kirk used towards African-American women, towards
that one's a ridiculous smear. His point of it was the idea about if you have DEI and you aren't using merit to select pilots, then suddenly seeing a black pilot means you have to worry that the person was selected not on the basis of their merit.
I'm not just talking about that idiotic statement he made. I'm talking about Michelle Obama and others when he said they're not smart enough.
Is affirmative action does affirmative action not mean that the most qualified person do not necessarily get selected, right?
Okay, yes, so would you say it's a DEI hire for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Would you say it's a DEI hire for members of the Trump administration? What are Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s medical credentials to be in that situation?
DEI hire. It's
what would you call it then?
Coalition
qualified? Is he qualified?
He endorsed President Trump and brought his voters, and he gets a cabinet.
Well, is he I don't hear you complaining about the not qualified, unqualified people that are in the Donald Trump administration that have no bearing on being there. And by the way, I wasn't talking about the statement he made about a black pilot. I'm specifically talking about the statements he made about Joy Reid and Michelle Obama. I think we all can agree Michelle Obama, you don't have to agree with her politics, but he went after her intelligence. All these black women going after transgenders as if he's a doctor, saying transgender surgery should be illegal. No, I don't think he was a good guy. Now, you're his friend.
It should be illegal. It's barbaric.
That's your opinion.
Certainly be illegal for anybody under the age of 18.
That's your opinion. I think it's barbaric to beat police officers on January 6th, but the guy who you support called them patriots and hostages. I think that's barbaric. But guess what? I don't tell other people what to do, Will. Shame on you. I don't tell other people what to do. Shame on Charlie Kirk and shame on you.
Oh, no, shame on you. Shame on you. I love how much the left wants to shit.
I'm not the left. I'm not the left. I'm a registered independent, so you're not going to play that game with me, Will, okay? If you want, listen, I think Charlie Kirk was a bad guy. I'm sorry you lost your friend. I have the right to feel that way based on things that he said. And then when I bring up things, you say, well, that's just a one-off. That's just one thing he said. I have never celebrated or laughed about the death of anybody in my entire career. Charlie Kirk did that on his podcast, and shame on you for not calling that out.
Pelosi didn't die. He didn't celebrate.
Shame on you. It was an attempted murder. Does that make it any better, Will? Shame on you.
I don't think it was obvious at the moment that it was an attempted murder. That's why I'm a little worried about you saying, I don't want to.
Bludgeoning somebody with a hammer. By the way, he was convicted already. Well, bludgeoning somebody with a hammer.
I certainly wouldn't say that about him. Obviously, he was like a criminal. I just think if it was the day after it happened, it wasn't obvious what the story was.
Are you going to call out? Oh, okay, so that makes it any better to be joking about something like that on a podcast and telling people to bail him out? You think that's okay? Or are you willing to call that out on this show? You call out Democrats for everything. Why don't you call out your late friend Charlie Kirk as I give you the call?
No, I'm not calling out my late friend Charlie Kirk for anything. No.
Well, there you go.
Out my late friend
there you
Charlie
go.
Kirk. Listen to yourself.
There you go.
Will you call out your dead friend who was assassinated in cold blood by a leftist lunatic? No, I won't.
A leftist lunatic? He's a leftist lunatic? Who did it?
Yeah.
What's your evidence that he was a leftist lunatic?
The engravings on the bullets?
Oh, okay.
So
that would show you that it was the left that did it then. So it was a
leftist lunatic.
A leftist lunatic.
He was a leftist.
Got
All
you.
the evidence points to him being a leftist. His parents
so what about the anti?
Whoa! We're going to stop on this one for a second. Are you seriously saying you don't believe he was a leftist?
Well, first of all, here's what I will say about it. And unlike you, I don't care whether the right or the left commits a heinous crime. On January 6th, when we had a lot of Trump supporters that did small things, I didn't. Oh, well, there's a reason why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, because I didn't blame all Trump supporters or all of the right for what took place on January 6th. There were a couple 100,000 people there, and there were maybe 1,500, 2,000 people that did some horrible things, some stupid things.
Yeah, I called them out for it at the time. I lost a lot of followers that day.
Well, you know what? The guy who you support called them hostages and patriots. But anyway, going back to this one individual, there is an investigation. I'm going to let it play out. And unlike what Charlie Kirk did the day after Paul Pelosi was bludgeoned with a hammer, I'm going to wait for all the evidence to come out and see where he was radicalized, how this happened, and hopefully prevent something horrible like this from ever happening.
Oh, I think that's a cop-out. There's enormous amounts of evidence that's been made public already that really seriously and very clearly demonstrates the guy was a leftist. And I think that's a cop-out.
He was a leftist. Okay. So, I mean, I've heard people talk about his transgender boyfriend and blame it on transgenders. He comes from a conservative family who voted for Donald Trump. I don't really care what his.
I didn't realize that like political views are transmitted from the parents to the children, like genetic height.
Well, I mean, even if he was by the way, was he a registered Democrat or what was he registered?
He was 18 or like he was 19 years old. He probably hadn't even voted. Doesn't mean he wasn't a leftist.
Doesn't mean he was either.
He voted like he put out there in his own text messages, I was tired of his hate. Right? He was dating a transgender person. We know that. He put Bella Bella Ciao, which is anti-fascist slogan.
Why is that important to you?
Fascist catch.
Why is that important to you that he was dating a transgender person? Why does that have any relevance?
It wouldn't even matter so much if it weren't for the fact that the left is trying to deny it and blame conservatives for the death of their primary symbol. It's a kind of blood libel. That's why it's offensive.
What elected Democrat official is blaming Republicans for what happened to Charlie Kirk?
Oh, you didn't? There was one. I forget it right off the top of my head. But that was Jimmy Kimmel. Sorry,
Is Jimmy Kimmel an elected official? Is Jimmy Kimmel elected? Okay, I asked you what it was.
Jasmine Crockett who did that, or it might have been somebody else.
So Jasmine Crockett blamed Republicans for Charlie Kirk's murder.
I think there was somebody like in any event. It's extraordinarily common. Again, you look at the polling, you actually see. Okay, so this is just overwhelming in the leftist information ecosystem. It's something like 30% of the left believes that he had leftist belief. I'm sorry, believes he had right-wing beliefs, and only 10% believes he had leftist belief, despite all the evidence pointing in the other direction. There's enormous disinformation problem on the left.
Okay, so do we blame the left? So do we blame the left for the murder of your friend? That's what a lot of Republicans are doing? Do we blame the left and the rhetoric from the left?
I mean,
what do you blame for this?
Yeah, I blame the radical left for this. I blame the radical left for this.
You blame the radical left.
There's an enormous number of people on the radical left, people like Hassan Piker, people, who encourage this sort of crap, who talk, Destiny, another one that I would certainly put in this category. People who, would talk. Destiny had some horrible quote.
What did Destiny say? What did he say that
he said that, Republicans need to see their friends assassinated so that they'll act right or something. It was one of the, I could pull it up if you want me to.
I don't recall, but him making that statement. But I guess this is my question, right? I think we both can agree on this. There is political violence on both sides of the aisle. You call it out.
Overwhelmingly a liberal problem.
Okay, well, I disagree with you, and I have the statistics that would say that what you're saying is wrong, according to the
statistics are garbage in, garbage out, manipulated by people who are liberal themselves and trying to categorize things like white supremacy violence in prisons as political violence.
All right, so let's talk about that. No statistics. The judge's home arson back this October 2025. Democrat officials.
No clue who that is. No clue who's done that yet.
No clue.
None.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Zero evidence in any direction.
What about the woman who was? What about the Texas El Paso shooting in Walmart? Manifesto, Trump supporter. What about the violence? You don't recall. You don't remember that. I understand.
Yeah, it's a while ago at this point. There's a lot more leftist violence in the immediate recent past.
Well, that's not true. That's not
also true that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So in 2025, The Guardian reported that the U.S. Department of Justice had removed a study that found far-right extremists commit far more violence. What's your reasoning behind that?
Look at Biden's DOJ found that.
No. September.
Garbage in, garbage out.
September.
Donald Trump was nearly assassinated twice. Charlie Kirk was just
by a Republican.
In the last month, there was an ICE shooting. There was the shooting in the Annunciation Church.
You don't want to answer my question.
There continues to be overwhelming violence against ICE officials. They tried to kill an ICE official in Chicago just yesterday. There's an extraordinarily problem with weapon violence in this country.
Why didn't you answer my question? September.
Left-wing agitators, Antifa.
I see. So those aren't right-wing agitators in Portland. Okay, so September 2000. I'll ask the question again because you didn't answer it. September 2025, The Guardian reported that the U.S. Department of Justice removed a study that found far-right extremists commit far more violence. Why would they not want to release that study? Why did they remove it, sir?
Because they think it's fake.
Oh,
so they don't want to put fake information into the public ecosystem.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if they think it's fake, they will erase it and remove it. But if it fits their political narrative, then they'll go along with it. Thank you for making my point for me, Will. That's the point that I was trying to make. You're blaming the left for all the political violence in this country, or most of it, which is statistically not true. And then when I bring up the word statistic, you say, well, that's fake and it's made up. Will, if it doesn't fit your narrative, it's fake and it's made up. If it doesn't,
well, because it's just literally obvious if you pay attention to the news and you actually see what's happening in this country that there's a left-wing.
Who was the guy who went into the church?
And you look at the polling that shows who's actually okay with political violence, and it's overwhelmingly the problem is dramatically different for the left versus the right.
Who's the guy who went into that church a few weeks ago who killed a bunch of innocent people? Was that a leftist?
I have no idea.
You very convenient, Will. You have no idea. Let me give you a hint. He was a Trump supporter who wore Trump outfits and went into the church and started shooting a bunch of innocent people. And then people like you said it was an attack on Christianity. That was a Trump supporter. That wasn't the left. It was a Trump supporter in Texas, El Paso, who killed a bunch of brown people in a Walmart, who in his manifesto talked about Donald Trump and his support for Donald Trump. I'm not making the case which you are trying to make, that in all the violence, the left has a huge problem with political violence. What I'm trying to say is it happens on both sides. We didn't have an insurrection with a bunch of.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen on both sides, but I am saying it's overwhelmingly a left-wing problem,
which is not true. You've shown no evidence to prove that. I've given you statistics. You call them fake.
Here's my best example of this. There was that Minnesota state senator, that state legislator who was assassinated, by some lunatic.
Yeah, and Donald Trump doesn't know who her name is. Right, exactly. Go ahead.
Well, almost nobody on the left remembered who her name is until Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and they were grasping for a talking point. It's really actually quite sad to think that her.
No, I was talking about it way before Charlie Kirk.
Good for you. Most of them weren't. You can go through most of their Twitter feeds. The people who talked about her death and the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination hadn't talked about it at the time.
Okay,
she was reached out for as a talking point.
I don't agree with that, but what's the point you're?
And the point I'm making is that people have to reach back and try and essentially create reach back to facts that they didn't even pay attention to at the time, that didn't have political valence. Because honestly, the murder of a state senator, while obviously tragic, doesn't have the same political valence as the murder of a national political figure, especially one at the level of Charlie Kirk. And
so
the right is now dealing with the fact that Donald Trump nearly got assassinated twice
by a Republican.
One time where he got shot
by a Republican.
Give me a break.
Okay, so let's talk about that since you don't.
Nonsense.
No,
I won't even hear any of your complaining about
22-year-old
taking the facts seriously by a Republican.
You're the one who's bringing up the assassination.
It's amazing how you like to blame Republicans for their own assassinations. Was the 22-year-old Donald Trump was assassinated?
So tell me then, the 22-year-old who tried to assassinate Donald Trump, who was killed, was he a Republican or a Democrat?
The 22. I have no idea what he was.
You have no idea. He was a registered Republican.
We didn't get any information about it.
No, we did get information. No, we did get information. He was a registered Republican who came from a Donald Trump family. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is you're making it sound like the left tried to assassinate Donald Trump, which is a lie. You should be ashamed of yourself.
A Trump supporter tried to assassinate Donald Trump.
It's not what I think, sir. He was a registered Republican. It's not.
How do you know that means he was a Trump supporter? All registering means that you put your.
You're blaming it on the left
for Donald Trump's assassination. How dare you?
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I need you to pay attention.
You said he's a Trump supporter.
No, I need you to pay attention. You're blaming the left for the assassination attempts of Donald Trump.
I got to stop. All right, I have to get over. We've gotten caught, and we're way past our exit. Sorry, I need to get off the phone.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. You should be ashamed of yourself, Will, but I do appreciate you coming on the show.